Welcome to On the Brink with Andi Simon. I'm Andi Simon. I'm your host and your guide. And remember, my job is to help you get off the brink. I want to help you see, feel, and think in new ways. So I bring wonderful people here to help you do just that. I want you to be a little of an anthropologist, to step back and look at what's possible and then make it happen. Here's a new set of podcasts that we're going to be doing, though, that I want to sort of set the stage for. We're calling it The Wisdom of Women Entrepreneurs with Purpose. Hear their voices. Dr. Barbara Brown is my guest today, and she's the first of a series of these podcasts where we're bringing in wonderful women who have very interesting stories to tell you. They're a little different, perhaps, than what we've done all along. Remember, we're over 400 podcast episodes. But these are trailblazing women who are redefining what it means to build a business, lead a business, and then live lives with purpose. This is as much about their own journeys personally as it is professionally. And what I want you, my audience, to hear is how you too can move from simply being successful to having significance, from building a business that's profitable to really having purpose. And I say that because you're going to be listening to a series of these women whose voices are going to tell you about, it wasn't a straight line, but it's a journey. And now we're at a wonderful stage or phase where we need to really reflect on its meaning, both for me personally and for the society in which we're in. You're going to love listening to them because we highlight some of the entrepreneurial companies of purpose within the Women Business Collaborative. Dr. Brown knows a little bit about the WBC. I've been a member since it was founded by Edie Frazier. This program is both me and Edie Frazier together in a partnership to begin to build the voices of women with purpose. Something is going on that's really transformative. So these extraordinary women are shaping the future, and I think you're going to see a different kind of woman coming through with resilience and meaningful impact on the world. Thank you for joining us on this journey. And I think we are going to dive in and hear these wonderful women with joy. And now let me introduce Dr. Brown, because I do think that Dr. Brown is going to tell us a whole lot about how you can have a successful life, a wonderful business, and purpose well beyond what we do and the success that we breed. Dr. Brown sent me a wonderful media kit, so I'm going to read her short bio. I'll tell you a little bit about her story. And then I'm going to let her tell you about her journey because you're going to enjoy it from her perspective. Dr. Barbara Brown is a licensed clinical community psychologist with over 3 decades of experience serving as the founder and CEO of Capitol Hill Consortium for Counseling Consultants. Unicorn Healthcare is also a company of hers. They grew out of her solo private practice into group practices. She has over 80 staff. And they have local and national recognition for her business acumen and community impact. Established in 2009, CCCC and provides high-quality, affordable psychotherapy, psychological assessment, and testing for children, adolescents, and adults, while also offering training programs for graduate students and early career psychology, social work, and counseling professionals. Not an anthropologist there, but we should talk about that. It might be an interesting place to actually see things through a fresh lens. This is a wonderful woman who's going to talk about how to offer people something they need in a way that's very accessible and very comfortable for them. About her, she strives to provide thoughtful support to individuals who often prioritize caring for others over self-care. That's a big theme. Family caregivers, providers in the helping professions, and more. I understand that these unique individuals often do not ask for help themselves, and my mission is to normalize the crucial importance of mental health and emotional well-being. I think this is a blending of physical health, mental health, behavioral health. It's a big question around America now about the rise of depression, about loneliness. This is really big. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Barbara, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You have a wonderful bio, but I think your journey is deeper and richer. Please share it with our listeners. Who is Dr. Brown, and what has your journey been like so that we can share it with you and then understand the purpose that has emerged from it. Please.
So I'll try to do the short version. But basically, I feel very blessed to have known that I wanted to be a psychologist since I was 17. And that had been born in the type of psychologist that I wanted to be and how I wanted to use my education as well. I was born into a family that had a lot of accomplishments, but they were all done for community. I had the women in some of the women in our family were civil rights attorneys and trailblazers in their own respect, and the men were often physicians and just generation after generation, and so they were healers, and they were all very committed to serving the community. And so I grew up in um, that kind of atmosphere. And so my first job was working for my father, and he was a wonderful diagnostician. And he recognized, I think, early on that a lot of the physical symptoms that he was seeing were related to stress. And so I met my first psychologist at 14 because he made several referrals to a psychologist. And so I really understood the integration of mind and body then. And then I took a course in high school. I was able to take a course in psychology. And I always say, I learned about Jungian dream analysis and primal scream therapy, and I was hooked, so so it started. So I
Those are
went to
interesting
college.
things to get hooked onto, aren't they?
Right, right. Well, I just thought it was so fascinating, this whole journey of understanding humans and why we act the way we act. And so it no, in college, and it was very clear that I was going to be a psychologist. And then I also picked up sociology. So really looking at the micro and the macro level of humans and how they interact by themselves and in their communities was really important. And then so it was natural to go to Boston University in clinical and community psychology and really always keep that in mind. So I never thought I never planned to be in private practice. I had always planned to be in a more community-based agency. But one of the things that I discovered through the course of it was the level of the bureaucracy can sometimes strangle the clinical work. And there were so many people who were in need that it didn't seem to go together. It's like we can't let all this paperwork get in the way of treating people. And so that really drove me eventually to start my private practice, also in a particular kind of private practice. I did not, because of the way that I grew up and being as community oriented and wanting to make sure that there was access to care, um, it was important to me not to just do a self-pay practice the way that many of my colleagues were doing, to do one that really was accessible. So making the decision to accept public and private health insurance was very important, as well as having the freedom to create programs that were meeting the needs of people. So um, again, I had been trained in child, adolescent, and adult therapy, so I was able to have that kind of practice, and then really add more and more clinicians over the years who could fill those one or more of those. So we see age 3 to 83. That's what I would say, and we do individual, family, couples, you know, uh, group therapy, as well as the psychological testing for educational purposes, for, you know, um, testing intelligence, for neuropsychology and neurodivergence, as well as personality assessment. And what came close to my heart over the years was really working with trauma, because what I found for both women and men, just high levels of trauma that happen in our society. And so trauma-informed therapy and developing ways to help women with both simple or single case trauma as well as complex trauma, really became my specialty area. And, um, training other clinicians to do that so that we can really create an army of therapists to meet the demand has always been important. And even more so now as through COVID, where the mental health challenges became so significant that finally I feel like there's been a breakthrough of understanding on a higher scale, on the largest scale I've ever seen, of people recognizing that there is no health without mental health, to really coin Dr. David Satcher's words. And he's always been a hero of mine ever since he was in the Carter, since he was the Surgeon General in the Carter administration. So
Now,
I've been doing a lot of talking. Is it?
oh no, you're educating me and our audience, because what you've done, if you created your own community health system without the bureaucracy, in a way that allows you to develop it in innovative ways, around the needs of the folks that you're seeing, and in response to whether it's COVID or other things that are developing. I mean, depression was quite ubiquitous before the COVID, and people were also living alone. And I did some work for the Community Health Center of Denver, and I had to take the science of well-being course that came out of Yale. And we were disturbed by all these successful Yaleys, found that was the most wonderful course to take because they needed to find happiness. And you began to wonder about our society losing its focus on health and well-being and happiness and collaboration and community. So interesting. As you're looking at a couple of thoughts that came to mind, one of which is you're a woman business owner. Some thoughts for our audience about the ups and downs of building something, because I do think that it isn't straight line. Your career hasn't been a straight line. You didn't see this at the beginning. You
Right.
said, that's what I want to build. So what was it like as you went through this journey?
Um, I think in terms of business, it's much when you're doing it just by yourself. Like when I was doing my solo private practice, it's such a different animal. Even though the brick and mortar is the same in terms of the processes that you have to go through. When you scale it, the way that we've scaled it, and we see over 1,000 people a week in the DMV area. DC, Maryland, and Virginia for those people who aren't from this area. Um, and, when you go, you have to build the infrastructure along with it. And so that is a huge reliance on people, and secondarily on, now more than ever, on technology.
Mhm.
And so making sure all the pieces come together is so important. And again, when things happen with people or with technology, like we had to rebuild our whole infrastructure when we went from 100% in person to 100% remote.
Yeah.
We had to do everything differently and spent, quite a bit of money. So it really is helpful. The more forecasting that you can do, the better. But even then, things happen. And so, what I feel is the grit that is needed to be a businesswoman, and to face the challenges. And, we're human just like everyone else. And when you have things that are new and uncomfortable, again, you have three responses. You can fight through it and go for it. You can do flight and avoid it, or you can freeze. And I've done all three of those.
Yeah.
Uh, but you can't stay. I have never stayed in the flight or the fright mode. I'm more into trying to handle what needs to be handled. And so my orientation toward finding solutions to problems really has helped. And just trying to gather my team of leaders to assist me in moving through whatever the challenges have been. And I've had to rely on family sometimes. I've had to, bootstrap it most of the time. And but it pays for itself at this point, which is great.
As you have been building a very successful um, practice, and 1,000 patients a week is enormous. How did you weave in the world of your family and their focus on community or on purpose and meaning? Those words have to be concretized in some fashion. And I say the word purpose and meaning and significance, but I always ask, what does that mean? My hunch is that as you've been doing it, it's more than simply a bottom line or profits or shareholders. It's also been your staff and the folks in the communities. Can you share with us some perspective on what was the driver here, or how did it make you feel, or what was your legacy?
Well, again, I think I shared a little bit of where it came from, but one thing that has driven the business is that each person who we choose to work in the business buys into our philosophy.
Oh.
And so it is a value-driven business from the beginning. And so I feel like I have a cadre of therapists who, and our staff who supports the therapists, who really believe that giving back to the community is what we do. And yes, we do need to survive and make money along the way, but our purpose for being here is larger than that always. And so it's been so important to find like-minded people. And I had a business, again, I went from my solo practice and then I had Fax PLLC, which I have no short names here, Family Assistance in Coping with Trauma and Stress. And, and, and so I had that for 11 years and that was with partners and we built that up. And then and then we morphed, or I morphed into the consortium because I really wanted it to feel more like everyone's input, everyone is valuable here. And so, all together we make this consortium that comes together and helps the community in some significant ways. And so it's like 1,000 points of light, or if you go to George Bush, but like all these people coming together for the same thing. So we developed together a mission statement, a core community values, and our core group values that we stand by, but we created together.
It's so interesting because there's humility here, there's curiosity here, there's empathy. There are all kinds of strong feelings that must inspire the folks who join you not only to rise to the occasion, do well for your patients, your communities, for themselves as well. Do they feel the meaning and the purpose? Do they end every day and say, that was a good experience for me?
I do believe so because we get together, we have weekly staff meetings, we have challenging case reviews, we have peer supervision, we have continuing education forums, and invariably, and of course, we do our own internal surveys. And what invariably people say is they are here for our clients. They get so much out of it personally in terms of giving back, but they also are here to serve. And so it is wonderful to hear that repeatedly by everybody. The dedication is amazing.
It's interesting. I have nonprofit clients. And among nonprofit clients, there's sort of an expectation that you haven't signed on for the money, you've signed on for the purpose. And when I was coaching the CEO the other day, he said, it sounds like these are businesses, all of which have become not-for-profit like. And I said, well, I don't see it as a profit nonprofit. I do see it as purposeful, non-purposeful. You can be in business to do stuff, good stuff, but you have transformed the lives of the folks you serve and the folks who are serving them. Yet they are different people, aren't they?
I, I, I do think we have transformative experiences. And I do think that every our clients, you know, benefit from the work that we facilitate with them. And I do see the growth in our clinicians as well. And we offer opportunities for the clinicians to grow in their development as well. We have, again, people who are still in school and training. We have early career clinicians. We have mid-level clinicians who are more in our administrative, you know, they want to grow and in some other ways other than clinically. And then we have our seasoned clinicians, which I am one of at this point. And and you know, like I always say, we like to do what we want to do. So we are we explore things, but again,
Yeah.
you know, just it's a wonderful developmental model.
As you're thinking about it, other businesses are struggling with the generational differences. I often think that the new generation has a strong feeling of wanting to have purposeful jobs, not just a job. Are you seeing differences in the young ones coming through, the youngers? And is that good or bad or both?
It's good. It's good because I think we give each other different things. Um, I didn't grow up with technology. You know, when I did my dissertation, it was on a typewriter. People don't even know what a typewriter is anymore. And
I
it,
did mine on punch cards, so I get it.
right.
I still
Yes,
have them. I don't know what to do with them.
right. There were no PCs. The data management was a room as big as your house. Anyway, um, so the technology that they bring, the way that they think, the way that they innovate
Yeah.
is extremely important to the work. And I do think the grounding that we baby boomers and millennials, you know, can do as people get older is really helping ground people in a life purpose. So I do think we help each other tremendously. And I listening is an important skill, not just for therapists, but for administrators, for all of us.
For all of
And
us.
listening to each other and really seeing what you can learn from other people. And I do think that that's the wisdom of children too. That's why I think children coming into our society is so important, because they make everything fresh and new. And I feel that same way with our early career clinicians as well as our season. It's like they make it fresh and new. That's why I love having a new class of trainees every year, you know?
I'm it does, it opens your mind to what's coming next. What's coming next for you?
So, as I said, I'm a seasoned clinician, so I am in my succession planning mode. And I am so happy to have a group of leaders who actually want to take on the mantle and keep the legacy going and also expand it in their own vision. And so we are in the process of moving and have made inroads into moving into our what we call our 6 pillars. And so I told you about the clinical pillar, and that will continue to be affordable, accessible, you know, healthcare and using contracts in addition to insurance because insurance is becoming a little more bureaucratic, which is unfortunate. But you know, we want to make sure there that access is maintained. And you can do that through contracts as well. And we've already started that process. And then having a continuum of care and services. So we want to make our training program bigger. We have about 14 trainees this year in psychology. We have an APA, American Psychological
Mhm.
Association approved accredited internship for psychologists. But we do externs, postdocs, interns, as I said, and then we have early career social work and counselors that we're training. So we're building that into a separate pillar. Uh,
Mhm.
and that may become a 501(c)(3), a nonprofit, because we really want to create an army of therapists in that way. We have testing. We want to expand our testing program, that becoming a pillar. to just grow that. And then we have our holistic vision that just has started. This is more unicorn in our self-pay piece, but it's we're focused on holistic healthcare. So we've had retreats. We're building clinicians who have a more broad view, and working with allied services to expand that. We find that, again, mind body is so important, and there are a lot of people who are into the holistic piece as we are, and they want to blend more yoga, more exercise, more, acupuncture, more all of those things together, into a wellness model. So it's not the pathology model of traditional psychology, but it's more the wellness model and trying to prevent things from happening. And then we have gone into corporate care because we know most people spend their lives at work, after school, then work. And so we want to make sure people are healthy there too, both the leaders as well as the employees. And the last piece is really an extended therapy, specialized therapy services for, again, the people who are not likely to seek treatment without it being highly discreet because of their public personas. And they need help, but they often won't seek it, or they want to seek it, but they have to do it in highly discreet ways because there is still some judgment, less than there used to be, but people need to protect themselves at the same time.
Yes, I know. How interesting. You sound like you've had a wonderful career journey, purpose. Life has blended work and life for you. Do you ever think about life and work as separate, or for me, it's always been integrated? I have a hunch it's been blended for you as well.
Absolutely, you hear that well. It's it's I think that most of my friends say that I have a level of intensity that is somewhat palpable. And so, so, but I was it with my group of, I've been in the same book club for the last, well, since 1989. And so we are a wonderful blend of people of women who get together monthly and have been for that long a time. And they call on me often for my wisdom, and of course, I enjoy their wisdom as well. But yeah, it's hard to it's I am who I am, and I am who I have been meant to be. And
Yes.
so it's really ingrained in me, and so it doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like a blending. And
It's
so that's why, yes, so that's why I will not retire.
yeah,
We were talking about that a little bit earlier. I will rewire.
yes. But I mean, you and I share so much because I discovered anthropology as an undergraduate and it was who I was, not what I was going to do.
Yes.
And when you have that epiphany, and then it becomes how do you live it in a way which makes it viable? And people say to me, "Oh, I loved anthropology. I just didn't know how to get a job in it." And I said, "Well, you make it up." And that was one of those aha moments where there isn't a job per se of how do you help people see, feel, and think in new ways or step out and understand their organizations. And then they say to me, "I thought businesses, how do I thought you studied small scale societies." I said, "What makes you think a business is in a small scale society?" And the rituals of mating, of dining, of rites of passage into positions, the spirit and the spiritual part, they're humans. And they build a culture that thrives, and they build it with people who need your help to make sure they have a wellness approach to life where they feel good every morning and they wake up smiling, right?
Yes.
It's an interesting time. I could keep talking to you because I'm so enjoying this. But Dr. Brown, can you share with the audience one or two things you don't want them to forget? And then we'll wrap up.
Sure. Um, Again, mental health is my passion. And so I really want people to really view mental health care as a right, not a privilege, as an important, just as important as your physical and your spiritual health and your financial health. They all go together to really create a life that you want, that you love to live. And that nothing is irreparable. I mean, I guess there is a solution, for every problem. And so I don't want people to lose hope. If you're struggling with something, reach out. It does take some courage, but you can reach into yourself and you can reach out to other people. There are people who care and they want to help. So
That's a beautiful way for us to end our conversation about your own journey of building something remarkable to bring help and wellness to people all around you in the DC, Virginia, Maryland, DVM markets. I hope our listeners understand that I bet you can get a hold of Dr. Brown and find out more about her programs, even if you don't live in Virginia or Maryland or DC.
yeah.
Because in today's world, particularly what we learned during the pandemic is you can be anywhere and get help anywhere. And if you need someone to talk to and to better understand your own well-being, don't wait. It's a good time to reach out and to learn more. May I use your email on there, or pardon me, your website? What would that
Oh,
be?
absolutely. Absolutely. So our website is www, four C's, so CCCC, mentalhealth.com.
Good. cccmentalhealth.com. I got that right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For our listeners, thank you for joining us today. Whether you're watching or you're listening, I get wonderful emails from you from across the globe. And today's talk with Dr. Barbara Brown about her own story and how she has gone from building something wonderful to help you with your own well-being to building something that's also purposeful for herself and all of her staff, and actually for the world around her. When she talks about going to a book club and them listening to her wisdom, it's a whole person. It's not just what she does, it's who she is, and her wisdoms are well worth sharing for you. I do want to remind you that we're going to be doing a whole series of these on women entrepreneurs who have purpose. And we want you, Edie, Frazier, and myself have joined together because we want you to hear their stories. Because there's so much more than just successful people who have gotten off the brink to rise, but they really have done something with significance. And that word has lots of meaning, but you're going to hear it over and over again in very soft ways, because I don't think anybody went into the business to be significant. They went in to do wonderful things for others, and out of it came purpose and meaning that have given joy to lots of other people. So thanks for coming today. Remember, our books are all on Amazon, On the Brink, Rethink, and Women Mean Business. And I love you when you read it, you write a review of it, and you thank me for helping you see, feel, and think in new ways. That's my job. And thank you, Dr. Brown, for being with me today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
My too. Me too. Bye-bye. Now remember, your jobs, folks, is to take your observations and turn them into innovations. Be an anthropologist. See things through a fresh lens and say, I can do that. Bye-bye now.